Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into some incredibly revealing garden notes published by Ang on June 25th, 2026. We are going to unpack these observations to uncover the wild, surprising truth about basil and aphids. If you've ever spent a Saturday afternoon in the dirt, or if you just find backyard ecosystems kind of fascinating, you'll absolutely want to stick around for this.
So let's start with a really simple question. Does basil actually deter pests? It's a fantastic hook, because this is just a massive piece of conventional wisdom, right? You plant some herbs, and boom, an invisible aromatic force field goes up, supposedly protecting your prized flowers and veggies from all those hungry bugs. But, well, nature is rarely that straightforward. The reality of the garden ecosystem often clashes pretty hard with what a beginner gardener expects, and that's the exact conflict we're going to resolve right now.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. The Great Basil Myth.
Here we have a classic bait and switch. Ang specifically introduced basil into the garden with one very clear job: act as a pest deterrent for the beautiful portulaca plants. Portulaca is a gorgeous flower, and keeping it safe was literally the top priority. But instead of acting as a reliable bodyguard, the basil itself turned out to be highly susceptible to a major pest infestation, specifically aphids. The very plant meant to repel the pests essentially rolled out the red carpet for them. And this brilliantly illustrates the exact problem with blindly trusting conventional wisdom. As Ang explicitly warns in the notes, this idea is, quote, one of those gardening myths that mislead beginner gardeners. It's a stark, very real reminder. While basil is a fantastic plant for evaluation and experimenting in the garden, treating it as a silver bullet for pest control, well, that just sets novices up for immediate failure. It really highlights why your own direct observation always trumps hearsay. Which brings us right to our next part. Section 2, Reality Bites, Aphid Season. So the absolutely crucial piece of the puzzle here is understanding the timeline. Based on Ang's direct observations across different gardening areas, the real trouble starts brewing right around spring. Now, the exact origin of these bugs is kind of a mystery. Ang notes being completely unsure if the aphids hitchhiked in on new plants that were just introduced to the garden, or if they simply migrated in from the great outdoors. But regardless of how they got there, the timeline points clearly to the following months. By May, the high season for aphid infestation officially kicks off, and it continues aggressively right through June. That right there is the critical window when your basil is most vulnerable. Let's move to and see how this builds in Section 3, Simple DIY Pest Solutions. You guys, it genuinely does not get more accessible than this. Step 1 is simply whipping up a mixture using basic things you already have sitting in your house: cooking oil and detergent. That is literally it. Step 2 is the application. Ang's notes confirm that this specific combination is entirely sufficient to have an immediate effect on the aphids. But here is the key takeaway. It works upon direct contact. You can't just vaguely spritz it around the general vicinity of the plant. No, you have to hit the aphids directly with the mixture to neutralize the whole shebang right then and there. But hey, if mixing up a spray isn't quite your style, Ang offers a delightfully savage, ultra-eco-friendly alternative. You simply pluck the aphids off the basil by hand, and then, well, you feed them directly to a nearby spider. Ang mentions having a resident spider, exact species unknown, making a little nest right there on some of the plants. It's this hilarious, highly localized food chain in action. I mean, why bother mixing up solutions when you can just provide a hand-delivered, catered lunch for your neighborhood arachnid? It's a brilliant, completely natural solution. Which leaves us with a final, provocative question. What other gardening myths are hiding in your backyard? As we've clearly seen from Ang's detailed notes, nature definitely doesn't always work exactly as advertised. Sometimes the plant you thought was the ultimate shield is actually just the bait. It really makes you wonder how many other common pieces of advice need a healthy dose of real-world evaluation and testing. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope this helped clarify the wild reality of the garden ecosystem. Keep observing, keep questioning, and, for sure, stay curious.